Well, it looks like full desperation is setting in as more of the former Treasury secretaries come out pleading for Congress to get their act together and raise that debt ceiling or do something about the debt. But it looks like with all that desperation, no matter what, the full faith and credit of the United States of America never really existed. Let's talk about this. All right, so I want to take a quick minute to share some quick thoughts. Came across an interesting article yesterday that I want to shine some light on today, just because it's a continuation of play on words. And so we hear all the time about how the full faith and credit of the United States of America cannot be tainted. It can't be minimized. We have to continue to stand on our word. We took out all this debt. We got to make sure we can live up to it. And it's all geared around debt. And so as of yesterday, an article came out on CNBC that caught my attention because it shows the amount of desperation that's prevalent right now in the system by the same people who are responsible for getting us in this mess. We have some of the globally systemic important banks, former employees, i.e. hijackers of our national currency, and former employees of the government now out here writing letters to Congress, hoping that they get their act together to continue to kick the can down the road. But in this article here, I'll thumb through it briefly and, of course, link it below for you to find out more for yourself. But it says 6 former Treasury secretaries urge Congress to move swiftly on the debt ceiling. And just give you what's going on here. It says 6 former Treasury secretaries on Wednesday urged Congress to take quick action to raise or suspend the U.S. debt ceiling or risk, quote, serious economic and national security harm. And it's good to say at this current moment, we're already in the midst of severe economic and national harm. Scroll down here, it says former Treasury Secretaries Henry Paulson, Timothy Geithner, Larry Summers, Jack Lew, Rob Rubin, and Michael Blumenthal told House Speaker Nancy Pelosi that even flirting with a first ever U.S. default could spook markets. This isn't the first time they talked about defaults. We've had defaults in the past. The last one we're all familiar with happened 50 years ago in 1971 when Nixon temporarily suspended the gold window. Here we are 50 years later. And it looks like the fiat game is coming towards an end. But it says here, quote, as former Treasury secretaries, we write to express our deep sense of urgency that congressional leadership, working with the administration and the president, move swiftly to initiate and complete a viable legislative process necessary to raise the debt limit. Once again, all we're talking about is just more debt. We're not talking about touching the principal, paying down the debt. We're talking about kicking a can down the road. So ultimately, it should be best as they just say, we need to do something to kick this can down the road further until. Then it says, even a short-lived default could threaten economic growth, the group added. Quote, it creates the risk of roiling markets, which is what we've been experiencing now, which has nothing to do primarily with what's going on. It's more so the anticipation of what the Fed will do, as well as what's happening in Asia, and of sapping economic confidence. I'd imagine, just like myself, not too many people who's probably watching right now have confidence in the current economic conditions we're in. And it will prevent Americans from receiving vital services. And those vital services happen to be promises that were made a long time ago, which was designed to keep people trapped into the system and dependent upon the system. But at this moment, I'm sure a lot of people realize that this decade, a lot of those promises will be broken, plus some. It will be very damaging to undermine the trust in the full faith and credit of the United States, and this damage would be hard to repair. And so that's one of the things I want to touch on real quick is the words they throw out, the full faith and credit of the United States of America. What the heck does that mean? And outside of the fact it's been related to the monetary system, the economy, and based upon the idea of living up to the promises made by the federal government to meet our debt obligations, the idea of trust, full faith, and credit when it comes to the monetary system never even existed. And just to show you that, I'm going to share with you this article right here of what the concept of full faith and credit actually means. And it's a part of the Constitution. It's Article 4, Section 1, full faith and credit clause. And it has nothing to do with meeting our debt obligations or anything of that nature beyond our own borders. And to give you an idea of what it talks about here, it says full faith and credit shall be given in each state to the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of every other state, and Congress may by general laws prescribe the manner in which such acts, records, and proceedings shall be proved and the effect thereof. So once again, what in the world does full faith and credit have to do with living up to our debt responsibilities? It has nothing to do with that. In my opinion, this has been a play on words forever that has been swept under the radar because most people don't really pay attention to the fine details. And we all know at this current moment, the trust has been gone. There is no faith. There is no credit Our system is debt-based and it's coming to an end. They realize that, and I sense the desperation by those government bureaucrats and bankers because they run the risk of their Ponzi scheme being up. And the Ponzi scheme happens to be this debt-based nature of an economy of which if no debt is created, the game's up. And all 6 of those Treasury secretaries have profited well off the destruction of the Federal Reserve note, while either at some of the too big to fail banks or acting and pretending to operate in the interest of the United States government when they served as Treasury Secretary. So play on words can be very deceiving because the full faith and credit has been gone. Just look at what's happening all around the world. The only reason nations use dollars is because they've taken out debt in dollars and they continue to need that to pay off the current debt load they have. But on the back end of that, they've all made preparations to move away from the dollar. And we recognize what's happening in the Eastern Hemisphere and what appears to be taking root in the decentralized space with the adoption of by governments with Bitcoin and things like that. And so it's no longer about trust. It's all about confidence. And as long as confidence remains, which is dwindling day by day, and as we move closer to the possibility of a debt default of any kind, more people will really find out that there's a big distinction in the terminology and the word of a dollar. And so give you an idea what that means. This right here is a Federal Reserve note. This is what they're using right now to weaponize and to sanction the world. But also remember right here, this is another form of dollar. And this is the people's dollar. I'm sure you understand the difference between these two, but a lot of people do not. So if you found value in this video, I encourage you to share so other people can find out what's going on. It's a play on words. The full faith and credit has been gone. Now it's a matter of confidence, and confidence is running thin as we draw closer towards October. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, curious to hear what you guys think. Leave a comment down below. Hit thumbs up. Put this information out there so people can find out that there's a big difference between a Federal Reserve note and the people's dollar. I think it's time to really make that known. But anyway, be blessed, be safe. See you guys later.